Welcome to Lead the Way with Anna Gauker. Your guide, Anna Gauker, is on a quest of her own to find effective ways of creating change and inclusion in our communities. You have come to the right place if you believe in truth, justice, and coffee. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Lead the Way, and I'm Anna Gauker. Before we go any further, I want to remind you to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate your support. This episode shows a perfect example of an energetic person identifying a problem and taking strategic action to fix it. Rowan Childs is founder and executive director of the Madison Reading Project. She has a lot to share, so let's get right into it. Well, can we start by talking a bit about your upbringing and the start of your career and kind of what led to what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up, I guess my parents were pretty sort of adventurous, or that's sort of in our blood, and we moved quite a bit due to my dad's job. So pretty much about every 3 or 4 years, due to promotions or opportunities, we moved a lot. But the one thing that was consistent is we always had our books that went with us no matter where we went. And that was definitely something that's still to this day. I have quite a few of my childhood books, and definitely those were my treasures or consistent things growing up. And definitely my parents, I think, definitely shaped, obviously who I am today as well. My mom had a social work background. And so she was often, talking about helping other people or people who are not in the same situation that we're in. So I think that definitely had some how to say, definitely shaped who I am today, and also probably in forming my pilot program and nonprofit. I think they're definitely part of what happened with that organization. And reading and being read to as a child was definitely some of my fond memories and some of my favorite books growing up, and just trying to continue to share the importance of literacy. Having books in your home, especially as for children and families, I think is so important, and helps obviously shape what happens sort of as children become adults, and if they can read all of the possibilities, and also knowing what happens when you can't read, or can't read well. There's a lot less opportunity and hardships out there. So I hope hope I answered your questions there for you.
Well, you talked about how much your parents have influenced you and shaped who you are today. I think that parents tend to have such a strong influence, and everyone's parents are very different in their style and approach. I know that my mom talks about growing up on the farm, and she had, a big family growing up, and she said that if her or her siblings were sitting around reading, that was generally perceived as, oh, you have time on your hands. You should probably be out working on the farm, get outside. So, would
Yeah,
you say that reading is something that your parents encouraged?
definitely encouraged. I think, just they really enjoyed reading to us. Both of them did, or just some of the different books um, that we owned, but we definitely also went to the library a lot, or just really, they really encouraged learning and creativity. So whether it was reading a book of our own choosing, my mom and dad read to us probably every night growing up. That was definitely part of our sort of family ritual, going to bed at night, being read to. But some of my favorite books, sort of looking back, or when people have asked me that, there's definitely, some of the books that stand out, like the Roald Dahl series, he were very imaginative. But then some of the other things I used to read in my house weren't necessarily only for me, like National Geographic magazine, or they had some coffee table art books that I really like to just look through and look at all the pictures. But it definitely did help, I feel like, form a lot of my, looking back at some of the things I thought about, like career choices, or just learning about other things outside of my own, bubble as a child and teenager.
Are there any books in particular that you loved growing up that you still like to go back and read now?
Yeah, some of those books, definitely the Roald Dahl series. He wrote like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or James and the Giant Peach. Those were books I really liked reading again and reading to my own kids. Um, and then also, like, my mom read a lot of A. Milne poetry. He's the author of Winnie the Pooh. So a lot of those poems I would then read to my own kids. It was kind of fun because I hadn't really read those for myself. I'd only had my mom or dad reading them to me. So it was kind of just a nice sort of memory of um, being read to as a child, and then getting the opportunity to read those to my own children.
This seems suddenly really important. What's your favorite Pooh character?
Ooh.
Mm.
um, I mean, gosh, that's a good question. I mean, there's definitely Tigger, which I can sometimes be that person jumping around full of energy and ideas. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, Piglet. I've always had a soft spot for Piglet. How about you?
Well, that's the thing. I had this big stuffed Eeyore when I was growing up. And
Mhm.
like, I think I got him even as I was like a teenager. Um, I don't know why I always had this fondness for Eeyore because whenever I would watch the movie or the cartoon, he was really annoying. But I really, that was my jam. I don't
Yeah,
know. But
I
obviously
think,
Pooh, but
yeah,
that's like a little too.
I think all the characters are, at least in the books, I feel like, I don't know the cartoons as much, but I feel like in the books, I don't know, the characters are also well written and kind of lovable. I mean, that's kind of their thing, right? They're all sort of lovable and all have their own personalities that you can relate to.
Right, and kind of illustrates how each of us navigates the world.
Hmm.
And I think it makes total sense that you have a bit of Tigger in you now that you're a grown adult with ambitious ideas and trying to make big change.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I could be a Tigger and people might think that's fun. And there might be other times where people might say, slow down. We're trying to catch up a little, or stay focused on one thing. So I guess it could go both ways.
What led to you starting the Madison Reading Project?
Yeah, that was something as I was helping my own kids, my older son. Um, as much as I thought I did everything right around having books at home and reading to him. And he got into first grade and he really didn't like the books they had to read for school. So he kind of got a little behind, or it became more of a chore. And so I was trying to help him and learning new ways to encourage him to read. And as I was kind of going through that process, it really got me thinking about what about kids and parents who don't have all the opportunities that I have? Or, it really made me think about, kids who might not be able to go to extra programs at the library, or their parents purchasing additional books, especially ones of like high interest of the child, just doing some of those things that might be easier for some parents, might not be so easy for other parents. And I guess it got to the point it bothered me enough that I really wanted to do something. And so started with going out and talking to a couple of different people in the community. One of those people happened to be, I went to a conference and Michael Johnson from Boys and Girls Club had talked about kind of um, following a path, on your passion, some of your passions. And if that's what you want to do, go out and talk to people. So I did go talk to him afterwards and a variety of other people to try and find someone to partner with to start a pilot program around encouraging kids to read and to love books. So that definitely was one of the sparks of like trying to get over not realizing you didn't have to know everything when you start. Because that was definitely one of my first fears was I'm not a reading expert or I don't know how to do this. But that was definitely sort of some of the first like founding things I sort of tackled was where to start, and then also realizing you didn't have to know everything.
When you identified the need that existed, how did you determine where the gap was and the fact that there would be a space for a new organization to address it?
Yeah, I mean, that's something, you sort of come up with this hypothesis that, we think there are kids out there that need help, encouraging them to read. And so my very first partner was at Salvation Army after school program on Darbo Drive. They had a after school program, and I had met the director of the after school program, and he had said he was trying to help kids with their homework, but they were so behind on reading that he couldn't even really help them with their homework. He wanted them first to just get it back into reading, because they weren't up to where they should be. And so the week that I first met him, his name is Will Green. The week I met with Will, the report came out called the Race to Equity Report. And so it really got down into the fine details, all of the data you kind of needed to show the proof that where children were at in Dane County and Wisconsin, in regards to the difference in literacy rates, graduation rates, adults who had a high school degree or not. And it really gave us like the data and the push to really get started, because it was really obvious, not from just a 5 or 10 points difference of elementary school children, but sometimes 20 to 40 points difference between children who are Black and brown versus their white counterparts, or children who are living in low income neighborhoods versus middle to high income neighborhoods. It was really drastic. So that was definitely, I think, the final kick to just get started and see what we could do.
Where was that report and how did it
It's
come
still
to your...
available. Yeah, I can definitely get you a link as well. It's called Race to Equity, and I can definitely send you the link. It's still available, and I think they've updated it since then. I think that report came out in 2000. I'm trying to think if it was 13 or 14. that initial first
Okay.
report came out. Mhm.
Excellent. How long has the Madison Reading Project been around?
Yeah, this is our 6th year. So we started as a pilot program at first, and then nearly about 9 months in, I did decide to turn it into a nonprofit. As people were wanting to get involved and heard about what I was doing, some people had also asked about donating funds, and I wasn't after putting in some research, sort of how do you do that? I figured the best way to do that was to become a nonprofit, and also kind of realizing as well that there wasn't another group out there that was doing quite what we were wanting to do. So we felt like it was justified to become our own entity.
Did you have a partnership at that time helping you get off the ground?
Well, we were partnered with the Salvation Army. At that point, we were just focusing on having one partner at that time just to kind of get our feet on the ground and have enough sort of testing and work as far as what works, what doesn't work. One of the really nice tipping points for myself in the start was I did have a person who was really encouraged by what I was doing and trying to do, and they gave me a $1,000 like seed investment or donation to start to further do what we were doing, and that was really encouraging to have someone believe in you like that, and that really gave me more motivation to get started, and also um, it really prompted me to think about, when someone does that for you, that would be great to be able, down the road to be able to do that for other entrepreneurs, whether you're a social entrepreneur or anything else.
And how do you describe your mission today? Has it
Yeah.
evolved?
Yeah, I feel like our mission is still pretty close, which is to encourage, at this point, to encourage children and families and educators to read and to enjoy reading. Still provide, all of our services are free. So we provide free books to children, family, and educators, and we also provide literacy programming. And our mission still sort of holds true, whether that was 6 years ago or today. We just do it in a little bit more, I think, tailored fashion, and we've learned a lot along the way from where we started, but it's still the same.
Have your kids been involved in that development? I know that you mentioned before that it was sort of your son that prompted you to get into this area.
Yeah. Well, they've definitely done some volunteering, probably sometimes when they did and didn't want to. But I think they are pretty excited. I think they're still involved when I do go to the center, whether it's helping with some of the books, or they're still learning a lot about how to run a nonprofit just from watching what I am doing. And I think it is good to sort of learn about being, an entrepreneur or starting something of your own. Because I think that's always great when you can have kids sort of see that for themselves as like a career path, or testing your own ideas out. But my kids still get to help out, or not as much in person anymore right now due to the pandemic. But like last summer when we had our book bus out, occasionally I'd bring one of my kids along to come and help, so they get to interact with the books and the kids.
What is the Big Red Reading Bus?
Yeah. So we last May we launched our new initiative to really bring all of our books to a variety of, it could be a variety of public events, and it's a retrofitted bookmobile where everything is free on board. So the book bus normally would be able to go to different communities or events, whether it's at a community center or sometimes we partnered with different groups or even apartment buildings to bring our bus right to them so that the kids got to come on board and select books that they would like, or with whether that's by themselves or with their parents. And that's really been a huge game changer for us. Instead of collecting books, having our staff go to events, unpacking boxes of books, now, being able to really curate the books on our bus. It holds about 2,000 to 3,000 books, depending on the size of the books. But that's, so great to see our bus pull up. It's really visual with lots of graphics, and kids get so excited when we pull up and they see themselves reflected on the side of the bus. That's really nice, sort of like a graphic, like a comic sort of design to it. And there's kids of every color, shape, and size on the side of the bus. And kids get so excited about looking at the kids on the side. And of course, all the kids are shown reading a book. So kids sort of know right away from that visual cue a little bit what might be on board. And the opportunity to have the bus go to different neighborhoods and events and schools has just been huge. And I think their reaction has been really great. So we hope to continue to do that. Right now with the pandemic, obviously we can't have the kids on the bus, but we still go out and provide. We've done a lot of home deliveries through the summer to actual people's houses or homes, and then also lots of bulk deliveries to community centers, places that are offering free food and lunch programs, social workers and educators. So we're still using the bus, but just in a slightly different way right now. And hopefully we'll be able to get back to having it out in public again next year sometime.
As we know that reading and being read to is so important for child development, what is it about having books in the home that makes that extra bit of difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think for for many of us who have books in our home or grew up having books, it may not, it's sort of, we think everybody then has books in their home, hundreds or thousands, or being able to, a book comes out and you really want to read it and you click buy and it shows up at your house, or you go to the bookstore. And for many kids and families, that's just not an option, or they have very few books in their home. It's sort of a national statistic that 2/3 of children in poverty don't own any books, or very few. So when we go out in public and we see the reaction of people being able to pick out the books they would really love to own and read, you definitely see that immediate reaction. But just having fewer books in home, obviously there's less opportunities just from a casual interaction with books or magazines to being read to, or being able to pick up a book that you'd want to read. There's just so many less opportunities. So the more books you do have in your home, the much greater chance of reading them, interacting with them, having a sibling or a parent read them, and the higher your literacy rate goes up with the amount of books that are there. So we really are hoping to have families and kids enjoy reading, own more books, and help them grow their own libraries, and then hopefully provide them with the seeds then to encourage them to interact more with books, whether that means at school or going to a library, all of the above.
What would you say is the biggest obstacle for children, families to have regular interaction with books? And does it have anything to do with what I often think of as the evil presence of social media.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I do think, kids and parents are all online, and now even more so. Uh, we've had some really great positive feedback this summer from kids and parents who are so excited to have books because they've been online so much that they actually want a book. Like, kids still really want to hold a book. And I do think, at the same time, finding books that are really relevant to what's happening, um, books that show cultural diversity, and books that also, just something that's new that kids know, whether it's come out in the last year or two, or it's based on a movie or a character they really like, the more they want to read those and have fun with it.
What can you tell us about your upcoming event, Whiskey and Words?
Yeah, I mean, normally that would be a really fun in-person event. We have spoken word artists and poets who will read their work, and this year it's on Facebook Live with 105.5 Triple M. So it's really fun to have a different tie-in since we have to go virtual. So you can listen in on their page, and we'll also have it available to watch if you're not able to tune in live. But we're really grateful of the artists and the sponsors to help us create the event. So there's not tickets to sell necessarily, but we hope that people will donate while they're listening to help us continue our program. But it's coming up on October 8th. It'll be really fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was so good to hear about what you're doing and find out how we can all be involved.
Thank you. And yeah, if you have any other questions or if people want to know how to get involved, our website has all kinds of information about how to volunteer or to donate books, or who some of our partners are. That would be fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That was the amazing Rowan Childs of Madison Reading Project. Be sure to visit their website and check out their virtual Whiskey and Words event at madisonreadingproject.com. You will also find tons of information about their partners and how you can get involved. And one more reminder for the road. All episodes of Lead the Way can be found on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks to Buzz Kemper for his voiceover artistry in the opening. This episode was brought to you by the time and talent of Tyler Willenbrink, Annie Petras, and Jeremy Van Mel. I'm Anna Gaucher. Until next time.